Welcome to the Marriage Support Group. Today I am talking with Keith Dorscht. We are going to be discussing relationships going into 2025. So if you do not want your marriage stuck in the same pattern and routines as you were stuck in 2024, this is the time for you to listen up. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Dolly. Let's talk 2025.
2025. Now, I mean, you and I have been part of this group for years, and we have seen some amazing members who have been stuck for years. They are amazing people. They want so badly for their relationships to work, and they are still stuck in those same, they're posing the same questions, the same pain. They're asking the same for the same kind of help, but it's like this relentless hamster wheel that they just can't get off. And so, tell me a little bit about your theory when it comes to people being stuck.
Okay. Um, about 15 years ago, I went to a conference and I heard two guys present on a topic that I'd never heard anyone talk about before. And when I heard it, it connected so many dots for me. And as I presented it then over the years to people, they're like, that connects the dots for me. That makes sense. And it's the topic of maturity, which is to just put that word out there. Some people bristle at it. They don't want to think that they don't have maturity or they lack it. They want to think of themselves as mature. But really, in 30 years working with couples, I can say that every single couple that has sat across the desk from me or in the Zoom with me is lacking the maturity level they need for their relationship, because the level that a couple needs is they need to be able to have a relationship that is simultaneously mutually satisfying. So three keywords: simultaneously. So at the same time, both spouses look at each other and go, are you satisfied? Yeah. Are you satisfied? Yeah. Okay. So together, you don't want one spouse up here thinking everything's fine or we don't need counseling. And one thing, no, we got problems, we got to do something. That is not simultaneously. And how can the person up here thinking everything's fine really be satisfied in the relationship if their spouse is down here saying, no, we still got some important stuff we need to work on? So I know just from that fact that they're not, the couples that experience mutual satisfaction, they're out on dates, they're out doing stuff together, they're
Yeah.
investing in their family, investing in their community. The couples that are low in their capacity are struggling. And if you don't look at that, you're never going to grow, because we have a very poor understanding of what maturity is in our society today. Few people know what it is, few people know how to attain it. And without that growth, they stay stuck, as you described, for years, turning in the same situations. It might be in a different relationship, same problem. It's because they're bringing their level of maturity and capacity to that situation.
Yeah. So where would somebody then, just because you said the inequality here, so let's say you're in a relationship where your spouse, you can tell that they have a very low maturity, relationship maturity. How do you, as the person here wanting growth, how do you start bringing in maturity into your relationship then?
Yeah. When I'm working with a couple, I start teaching a little bit about it because people do need to know. I tell people it's the last 10% of information they're going to need in order to have a successful relationship, because it's a thing that's not talked about. So I present it to them and explain what your capacity is. I help them understand and see it without them feeling shame for not having that level of maturity that they need. And often their first response is, oh, what am I doing with my kids? If I'm not mature, what am I passing on to my kids? So this is an important topic for anyone in any kind of relationship, kids and marriage. And so I explain at a very high level what kind of these stages of maturity are, and that in order to mature, you need to have contributions in your life. And when you get the right contribution at the right time, you develop the capacity at that stage that's appropriate for you. So it's not something anyone can do on their own. I teach people that you need to do it together, you need to do it in community. And it's a strain on a marriage often when you're looking for your spouse to be the one making those contributions to you. It puts too much on them, because some of these things are contributions that you needed in the first few months of life from your caregivers, right? And if you didn't
Mm,
get those appropriately and for a long enough, consistent time, now you're married and you're looking to your spouse. Well, that's an extra weight on the marriage relationship. You're there to be husband and wife,
mm.
not parent, right? And I see, like you said, we've been in this group a long time. I see what's that phrase? Man, my husband is a man child. Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
My husband is a man child. They recognize there's that immaturity thing, and I'm having to be their parent, and I'm supposed to be their spouse. So the spouse relationship is not satisfying because I have to
mhm,
be more of a parent to you. And typically, they say 75% of the time it's the female that's at a slightly higher level, just one level above the husband. So it's not a whole bunch. And in those situations, if there's children involved in the family, that wife's going to look at the kids and pour her energy into their, it's sometimes more pressing and more appropriate. They go like, my kids need this. I shouldn't have to be doing it for my husband, putting words in his mouth, telling him what I need, coaching him so much, all of that. So I teach people what stages they should be at, what we're aiming for when they're married, where they fall to when they come under stress. It can be stress from anything. It could be feeling rejected from your spouse by your
mm,
spouse. That's a stress. And right there, it causes a drop in your maturity. And all of a sudden, these conversations become very immature and you start blaming and not taking responsibility. There's so many signs of immaturity that all change and improve. So we learn what those stages are. And in each stage, there's 5 or 6 things that a person can gain that capacity in. And as they grow, they hold those capabilities. You never, once when you mature and reach a new level, you don't fall back. You don't want to give that up, right? If you
right.
transition in life from um, you're living your life for what gratifies. Those husbands who are always on their phone. We see it in the group all the time. My husband's looking at women who are hardly wearing anything on Instagram. Why are they doing that? What's wrong with me and all that
Mhm,
stuff? Well, you're living with an immature husband who has only learned to do what gratifies in life.
right.
And looking at that stuff gratifies things in his brain, it triggers reward and stuff. He hasn't learned yet what satisfies. And if he hasn't learned what satisfies him, you're never going to have a relationship with two people satisfied. So you got to have that personal growth and then the couple's growth. And I help people lay out a plan for what that would look like, where they're doing their
Mm,
individual personal growth from wherever they're at, and then also balancing it with what do we do relationally, because our life situation has us requiring this amount of maturity, but we're down here, and this gap can just stir up despair and like we don't have the resources that we need. There's an initial panic to it.
right.
No worries.
Yeah.
Everything around us that is living is growing. And there's no reason we can't, right? So we're tapping into this very natural process that is in every living system out there of growth. It's just that in marriage, when our immaturity gets hit, we start looking outside. We want our situation to change. We want our spouse to change. We want relief. No one, no, I'm trying to think, but I want to be accurate. I don't want to over exaggerate, but like I haven't seen a person in the group post something like, what growth do I need to do? It's
Right. Very rare.
something with their spouse or their situation. So
Yeah.
2024 and all those years before where you're spinning, you've probably been looking at some good places, not all the places, and definitely not this very significant place.
Yeah. And I think it's important how you correlate the words maturity as well as personal growth. When I hear you talk about maturity or immaturity, the first thing is there's resistance that comes up, especially me being a woman. I don't want to be called immature, right? But I
Right.
also realize that there are levels of maturity, just like there's levels of personal growth. And it doesn't mean that just because you're not, very highly mature, let's say, it doesn't mean that you're immature. It just means that your growth is just, at a certain increment. But there's always room for growth, just like there's always room to mature further. And so if you're listening to this and you're put off by the term maturity, there is that correlation between it's really personal growth. It's really where are you in your personal growth in certain areas. And just because you might be not as far in one area, it doesn't mean that's across the board in your entire life. It doesn't mean that you have an immaturity in everything, but rather that there's room to grow in every area. And the minute that we feel that we have capped out and we're you know, um, as mature as we're ever going to be in something, I mean, I feel like that's a place of ignorance and ego because there's room for growth everywhere in our lives. There should always be. And as soon as you close your mind to it, you've now put yourself into this little box of I'd almost say sociopathic box because you're literally saying that you can't be any better.
You just went from you don't want to be called immature to now calling them sociopath.
Sociopath.
Good. No, that's
Extremes.
a really good, to just to make that point even more clear about our maturity. It doesn't have to do anything with our value or our worth as individuals. And the other point that it is lifelong because at every
Mm,
stage in life requires new capabilities. So think of maturity as capabilities. What am I capable of? What is a baby capable of? It's not capable of changing its diaper, preparing its own food, getting dressed, nothing like that. But how much joy and delight is there in holding that newborn, right? That's a
mm,
picture of you are always that valuable through life, but your capabilities, how much you can handle, is always growing. Then you learn to handle yourself, and then you learn to handle you and your friends, and then you and your spouse, and you and your kids, and then you become a grandparent. You got another whole level. So it does go all through life with your value never changing, but your capabilities and capacities, as far as like how much weight can I handle responsibility in life and still stay a joyful, relational human being? Some people
right.
can perform in their jobs at super high levels, and they think they have a certain level of maturity because of that. No, they have function and they can accomplish stuff, but they're not always relational with people and getting that stuff done. So it's what can I do while staying relational, which means treating you the way I would want to be treated in a
Yeah.
situation. It's like, I'm 57 now, and if a friend asks, I used to love helping people move. And if a friend asked me to move, I would be there and I'd be lifting the heavy stuff. Now I'm kind of like reluctant to sign up for it because I don't want them to know I can't be that guy who carries half of the fridge
Mhm.
because I don't have the muscle in me. I don't have that capacity. But you know what? If I exercised for couple months before the moving, my capacity would increase and
That's
I
right.
would be more of a contributor to the situation and the needs. And it's the very same with life. We talk about trees as being mature or not mature. And we're okay with that. They don't produce fruit, some trees for 3 years, some trees for 5 years.
Mhm.
But when they are mature, they produce fruit. And that's what we're aiming for in life, producing fruit and good contributions every stage of life and finding out why we got stuck or stalled in our maturity, fixing that's a lot of healing process, but then you don't ever just settle at, hey, I'm healed. What
Mhm.
next? Oh, I'm
That's
going to
right.
continue my growth that maybe got stunted at 7 years old when I was sexually abused by somebody, or at 15 years old when I was in a car wreck and then fear overtook me and worry. And I got healed from that, but now I got to continue my growth. So I have the capacity for what my life situation requires of me in a good way.
That's right. That's right. Or, in a situation where, let's say, because the group is 70% women, what I see personally coming across, my feeds a lot is when women are struggling, they're focused on what their spouse or their male spouse or their spouse is not doing, right?
Yep.
And it's very hard for them, and this can happen both ways. I'm just saying, me personally as a woman, I can relate to this too. I would look at my husband and what he wasn't doing. I was fixated on what he could be doing better. And that would put me at a lower maturity level because I wasn't willing to look at myself. A
Yep.
higher maturity level is the willingness to look at yourself. And
Yes.
that's just like, however you say it, maturity or personal growth, it's these levels. What level are you at? If you're lower, you're not willing to see how you can contribute or what your words are, how your words are contributing. But a higher maturity level is saying, okay, yeah, he has all this going on. Absolutely. But I'm going to take my focus off of him and how can I contribute or what can I do? Or even just being able to rise above other people's actions or decisions or words. These
Mm-hmm.
are all different stages of maturity and all different areas of maturity. And I really think it's a powerful conversation that you're going to be bringing to us. So
Yeah. If I
appreciate
could
that.
say two things on that. So if you're in a relationship where there's a lot of blame going on, that's that person who's not able to take that responsibility. They say 75% of women get stuck at that stage. So when a problem occurs in a relationship, they fall down to that level. And then 75% of men are at the stage before that. And that's the stage where the key thing, again, there's 5 or 6 things at every stage. But in that first stage, the most important capability to get is to receive. And
Mhm.
guys get stuck there. They don't pass that level. So imagine a wife coming to a husband and saying, hey, we need to go to counseling, which represents we need to go to a place where you're going to receive counsel and instruction from someone. That guy has not developed the capacity to receive. So what's he
Mm.
going to say to that request? He's going to say no. And I've never heard anyone in the group get it quite right as when they say, my husband doesn't go to counseling because of, and they say A, B, and C. No one's ever said because of his maturity level makes it hard for him to receive things. What do you do in that situation, you know?
Mhm.
So we'll be talking about that in the future for sure. And then there's one quote that sums up exactly, it's not a quote, it's a summary of an article. I follow neuroscience news every day. I get articles from them. 2 days ago, they said this. And when think of what you said about personal growth. A new study reveals that individuals with a growth mindset demonstrate significantly higher levels of passion and determination compared to those with a negative stuck mindset. Researchers found that people who believe in their ability to grow and succeed are more likely to set long-term goals and work consistently towards achieving them. The connection between mindset, which is like, can I grow, and perseverance influences life satisfaction, learning, and overall achievement in the areas of work, personal growth, and relationships. So it
Mm.
never ends. My
Mhm.
concern is for those in the group who lost hope in 2024 for a number of reasons. Counseling maybe got refused. The book the husband wasn't willing to listen, read, or just whatever that is, they got stuck and they're losing hope. Well, hope is believing the future, believing 2025 can be better, and that you have a say in that. You have a role in it becoming better. That's hope. You have a role in it. I'm going to challenge people to look at 2025 and say, is my role increasing my capacities, my capabilities to carry more weight and still stay relational, glad to be married to this person? Not saying I married the wrong person. It's just, no, I'm stuck. I need to increase my capacity, continue to view their value, and see how, if we both pursued our own personal growth, we would come together in a more successful marriage.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful. Okay, so if you want to hear more about this, Keith is offering up a workshop. The link is going to be below this video. Keith, do you have any? Oh, also, Keith is in the directory. If you ever want to reach out to him personally, we have an amazing group of coaches and experts in the directory. You get their directory always in your weekly newsletter, as well as we post it often at the top. So check that out. But below, you're going to find this access to Keith's workshop. And Keith, do you have anything else? This is really great.
Uh, there's so much more I could say. That's why we're going to do the workshop, but I'm planning on it being about an hour and a half to give plenty of room for everybody to ask all their questions. We're going to cover 8 misconceptions and truths about maturity that influence how you engage with it, whether you kind of resist the idea of your maturity level or whether you go, yeah, that speaks to me. I want to go further. What are the things that are influencing that? We're going to look at the 2 types of trauma that slow, stunt, or stall your growth that occur in life. 2 different types. You need to know the 2 different types and then each of their unique ways of healing from those so that your path to personal growth can continue. And then we're going to look at 2 or 3 of the 5 stages of maturity. And what are the 5 or 6 things at each stage that you can that will increase your capacity? Like being able to trust somebody is a maturity issue that but you need the right contribution. So we're going to look at all those stages. What are the areas that you can grow personally in, how that's going to improve your relationship, but what are those contributions you need from people in your life so that you can make that grow? Without those contributions, you're not going to grow. And so that's really the game plan for that. And people need to know that bit of information and then is get to work on that. and
Okay.
give yourself time and have those resources in your life so that you can have that growth. So we're going to cover all that in the Maturity Masterclass. Be sure to sign up for that in the link below.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate it.
All right.
We'll
Thanks,
see you
Molly.
inside the group.